Hello, this is Bill Bullard with R-CALF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, on October 4th, R-CALF USA filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA. We allege the agency violated U.S. law by attempting to mandate the use of radio frequency identification ear tags, or RFID ear tags, starting January 1 of 2023. Now, days after our lawsuit was filed, the President of the United States issued two executive orders, one of them criticizing the practice by federal agencies of imposing burdens on U.S. citizens without first following the lawful public rulemaking process. That is precisely what we allege the USDA did when it attempted to burden U.S. cattle producers with their RFID mandate. You see, the USDA followed the law back in 2011 when it proposed a rule to require adult cattle moved in interstate commerce to be officially identified with an animal identification device. The rule followed what is known as a notice and comment rulemaking procedure that allowed R-CALF USA and other interested parties to submit comments and participate in the decision-making process. That is what the law requires before a federal agency can burden American citizens with new regulations that increase the cost of doing business. Then in 2013, the USDA, after considering all the important comments submitted by the public, issued a final rule that allowed cattle producers to choose among various animal identification devices that best suited their individual operations. In other words, they could choose between low-cost devices such as brands, tattoos, or metal ear tags, or they could choose to use the more costly radio frequency identification ear tags. The important point is that the 2013 final rule recognized that a one-size-fits-all identification system was neither necessary nor desired within the U.S. cattle industry. And yet, in April of this year, the USDA decided it would undermine its own 2013 final rule by issuing a directive to the entire U.S. cattle industry that beginning January 1 of 2023, only the more expensive and complicated animal identification device, the RFID ear tag, would be sufficient for moving cattle across state lines. As has been the custom, the U.S. cattle industry rolled over, and everyone in the industry was certain that RFID ear tags would soon be the law of the land. Well, everyone that is except R-CALF USA, the largest producer-only cattle association in the United States. R-CALF USA teamed up with the New Civil Liberties Alliance and filed a lawsuit against the USDA alleging government overreach, meaning that the USDA was breaking the law by attempting to mandate RFID ear tags without following the lawful notice and comment rulemaking procedure. The USDA knew it had violated the law by issuing its mandate, and just last week, in response to our lawsuit, the agency quietly removed its written mandate from its official website. Then, on October 25th, the USDA officially retracted its RFID mandate in a written notice posted that day on its website. This is a huge win in the effort to stop the USDA from overreaching its authority and placing costly, unlawful burdens on U.S. cattle producers. This is also a huge win for U.S. cattle producers who are willing to fight to preserve their independence and their liberty. Where we go from here remains an unanswered question. Importantly, when the USDA issued its retraction of its RFID mandate, it disclosed that its primary motivation went well beyond attempting to improve United States' ability to trace back animal diseases. The USDA disclosed that among its primary reasons for wanting to mandate RFID ear tags was to meet the growing expectations of foreign and domestic buyers. Now, this gives us pause, because it's clear indication that APHIS, the federal agency charged with protecting the U.S. cattle herd from the introduction and spread of foreign animal diseases, is instead trying to condition the U.S. cattle industry to meet global marketing initiatives. From our perspective, this is a dangerous internal conflict. We already have a marketing division within the USDA, and it's known as the Agricultural Marketing Service. That marketing division needs to independently respond to policies developed by the animal health officials within APHIS to ensure our nation's marketing policies do not undermine our goals of preventing and eradicating and controlling foreign animal diseases. So why are APHIS animal health officials encroaching on the responsibilities of the USDA's marketing service and blurring the important lines between disease protection and meat marketing? We're going to monitor this very closely. But the message here is that when U.S. cattle producers decide to stand together to stand their ground, they can move mountains. In this case, the largest federal agency in the United States government, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. With that, we're out of time. We hope you have a productive week. Thank you and goodbye.